when I watch people at high MMR, what are they doing that I'm not? They're garbo, man. They're doing a lot of things that I'm not. Like I don't know. It's not. I think people think that somehow you can neatly. I don't know. I think there's this strong misconception of like, when people ask like, oh, guess someone's rating, or like what's the difference between 1500, 1600, or like what's the difference between a B, A, and S rank player, and then people think, oh, it's this, it's definitively this one thing or this other thing. But in my opinion, it really is just like, imagine if you just lift more weight. I mean, it's that simple. So, like, what's the difference between someone who squats like one plate, two plate, three plate? Like, at the end of the day, four plates, whatever, five plates, six plates. At the end of the day, they just move more weight. Like, it's like the same activity, but they just move more weight. I mean, I think there's a baseline where if there's someone who's never been in the gym and then they've never squatted in their lives, you can tell that they're completely noob, right? Just like if someone's never played the video game, they're gonna suck ass and it won't look like a real game. But I think once you get to the point where people kind of regularly have acquainted themselves with the game, the difference between like a 1600 player and like a 2000 rated player, if you were to watch two 1600 players play each other and two 2000 players play each other, it would probably not look that different. But I mean, eventually, just like if you watch someone squat two plates versus someone who squats one plate, it's like the same thing. I mean, now obviously if you look at, elite lifting, say like elite Olympic lifting, like, if you look at those Chinese fucking lifters, they're fucking insane. At some point, it does become impressive in itself. So like, if you were to watch pro level Age of Empires 2, it does look, the games do look a bit different than like potato level, but it's still the same movement. So if someone says the point of this long rant is, someone tells me, um, what's the difference? I feel like there's no real difference. It's just they're better. Like, just just better at the game. Like, what do you want me to say? Does that make sense? What's considered S rank in this game? I don't know. Who cares? I'm not too sure. And I think it's the same thing with Brood War. I think people will like. I don't know why, man. I don't know why it's like this. I don't know why people like to compartment. I don't know, like create like, I don't know why people talk about like, oh, this is the one difference or that's the one difference. It's all bullshit, man. I think, like I've mentioned before, I hate over intellectualization of anything in life. And I think honestly, one thing AI is doing is revealing just how fucking worthless. I mean, we create meaning through language and all these symbolic systems and stuff, so they're not worthless per se. But I think we've overly obsessed with this intellectualization of life, like this abstraction of life, and it actually is pretty meaningless underneath it. Like, anyone can say anything, but doing is another matter. So I think like sometimes AI kind of reveals just how meaningless, in a sense, a lot of our symbolic representations are, because we've essentially completely automated even the generation of it. But that will never take away uh, the embodied doing of it. And that's kind of the point of playing video games. A lot of people try to learn video games abstractly. They get coaching or they read articles or they think too much about the game or like they practice too much in single player or whatever. But when the bottom line is you just have to do the thing. You have to, you just have to beat opponents of that rating. You have to win your games against this type of opponent. And there's no like while you're in the game, there's no like you know pausing and thinking about it. It's you either do it or you don't. Just like you either lift or you don't lift. Does that make sense? I think that's what. So long rant, but that's the point. But it took me, I mean, I was there too, I was there too. Like I obviously I have the raw skill to get very good at well any RTS game obviously. But let's say Age of Empires 2, I could get good at it, meaningfully good at it in a meaningfully efficient amount of time. But that doesn't replace, it's hard like you can't just overcome, for example, I have barely over 100 games experience in 1v1 and I'm playing people with tens of thousands of games. I mean, you can't overcome that overnight, right? No matter uh, how well endowed you are, let's say. I mean, experience is king. You understand? And I think that's partly one thing that I find really interesting is it is fun to learn new things because I think this idea of entropy applies to anything in life, right? But as you get familiar and acquainted with one thing, over time it kind of like, yeah, it gets very hyper optimized and it becomes a different game, right? Like Brutal War is a different game now than it was 10 years ago and even 20 years ago, and Age of Empires 2 as well, and so many of these other games. That's why people say stuff like, um, oh, the skill level now is so much higher than the skill level then, as though we've mapped, like we've figured the game out more, we mapped out the space more. But I think it's more, I mean, we have mapped out the space more, but I think it's more a kind of entropy that happens as well, where the game stops being so wondrous and like interesting, and it's more kind of like suffering a kind of skill inflation. And I think rediscovering that wonder by playing new games and stuff like that is very interesting and it's very fun. And I think that's why it's kind of unfair. You know, I think if you take us like this isolated, for example, there's this stream, sorry, the streaming, the Age of Empires 2 streaming uh, competition or whatever, or like the Warcraft 3, whatever. If you take this isolated bubble of like new players, then you're kind of recreating that environment where it's like a pre-inflationary environment, a pre-entropic environment, and it's with people that are learning the game. And I'm experiencing this too, right? Like I'm learning a new game from scratch, and that's a vastly different experience from people that have essentially inhabited the game for years. And often I feel like we kind of, because most game communities only reside within their game for years and years and years, and they kind of lose sight of this phenomenon that takes place. Um, anyway, there's a bigger point I want to make with this, but the kind of point that I'm trying to say is that, for example, like you take someone like me who's otherwise pretty competent at RTS games, and even with my, and I'm not the only one. I don't want to sound too egotistical saying this, but even with my skill profile, I can't necessarily
Flash.
immediately
Is it Flash, dude?
figure out the
Or is
game.
it I love cock?
Thank you, Tricky Boy 75.
Pugger.
Techie Boy 75, merci beaucoup. Sorry. I think what I'm trying to say is, you know, even someone like me is having a hard time. Well, you know, there's a space of having to kind of learn it's like learning a new language, you know? You know how like if you learn a new language, you kind of regress back to being a child in a sense, like you kind of regress. Uh, you have to inhabit a new logic, and not just a linguistic logic, but like a cultural logic. And it's the same thing with, you know, learning a new game or any new skill. And I think what it's revealing is that sometimes people that inhabit only one particular space, whether it's linguistic, cultural, or like a game, and they kind of undergo that entropic kind of like inflationary decay over time, where even though the game becomes more the skill becomes more embedded within themselves and their identity, it also kind of uh, loses a bit of its meaning, right? So like that's why, you know, if you look at, for example, like people that play WoW a lot, or like any MMO, they're always frothing, or like any game is always frothing at the mouth with like, we need patch cycles, we need stuff to stay, um, we need stuff to stay fresh. Like we need novelty to like combat this kind of like entropic kind of decay, you know? Um, and I think that's kind of like a symptom of, you know, the way we construct our identity in modern life. You know, it's very like kind of splitting, like you know, division of labor. Not to use like a Marxist term, because, you know, I think Marxism, as with many philosophical systems, is fucking retarded. But the point is that we kind of embody certain areas of specialization because that's kind of what modern life demands of us. And instead of kind of like exploring the vastly different things that we can kind of do and reinventing ourselves and rediscovering stuff for the first time. Like, for example, I'm enjoying playing Age of Empires 2 because it's so new and different. You know, I have to figure everything out. It's not just rehearsed. Nothing is rehearsed. Like, everything is active in my brain because I don't inhabit the logic of the game. Um, and I think most people could benefit from doing stuff like this, is the grander point that I'm trying to get at. I'm not sure what I'm ranting about anymore. But I hope some of you guys get the point that I'm trying to make.